So we're in Luke. And chapter 10 starts out similar to chapter 9. Jesus sends out 70 or 72, depending on what translation version you're reading. They came back rejoicing, and Jesus tells them to rejoice more that their names is written in the Lamb's book of life over the fact that they had power over demons. Then he goes to the parable of the Good Samaritan, and this is what I want to get to. A lawyer stood up to test Jesus. Good luck, right? This would be a scribe, one who interprets the Jewish laws. Jesus had told him to love his neighbor as himself. Thinking he would catch Jesus in something, he asked Jesus, well, who is my neighbor? Jesus is like, funny you should ask. Let me tell you a story. Jesus answers with a parable. Now, it's important to know that a parable is a story used to convey a spiritual principle. However, when reading a parable, we must look for the central truth. There's always one central truth. And then always check the context of the parable by reading what precedes it and what comes immediately after it. Look up the parallel passages as well, if there are any, to support or give greater understanding to the parable. Okay, so the backstory. The Jews had a great hate for the Samaritans because they are the result of intermarriage that took place among the Jews during the exile of the Jews. So much hate that they would take the long way to Jerusalem, walking all the way around Samaria to get to Jerusalem just to avoid the Samaritans. And truth be told, the Samaritans would also kill Jews that would walk through Samaria. That's why it was a shock culturally, religiously, socioeconomically, for Jesus, a rabbi, to be seen talking to a Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus, knowing this, spoke to this woman in open daylight. Jesus took great delight in overthrowing cultural norms that were intertwined with religiosity. He embraced the socially outcast. So in this story of the Good Samaritan, a man was hurt very badly, and this man was a Jew. But the priest and the Levite, Jewish religious leaders, saw him hurt, but didn't tend to him. They didn't say why they didn't tend to him, but they just didn't. Who did tend to him? A Samaritan. Those that the Jews called dogs. Jesus told this scribe to go and be like the Samaritan, whose actions show true religion, kindness toward others, regardless of their differences. Is there any group of people or a person that you would not minister to because of their race, their gender, their political affiliation, religious beliefs, economic status, educational status, ethnicity? The list goes on. If so, you have the same issue the Jews had toward the Samaritans. Prejudice, racism, biases. No matter the reason that you don't like a person, it is unlike Christ to treat them other than the way you would treat yourself. The closer we get to God and have a love relationship with God, the more our heart will have a love towards others. These religious leaders had the knowledge of the law, but they were self-righteous and did not display the weightier matters of the law, which was what? Love and justice, right act toward others. Jesus was going at the religious juggler to expose them and lead them to a heart that will convey the heart of God. Now let's talk about Martha and Mary. They had a close relationship with the Lord, as did their brother Lazarus. Jesus would often stay at their place when in Bethany or around Bethany. Here we find in Luke chapter 10, Martha being busy in the kitchen, while Mary is at Jesus' feet listening to his teachings. This was huge because disciples were the ones who sat at the feet of a rabbi. They never taught a woman. It would have been a privilege for Mary to be sitting at this teaching rabbi. But Martha was huffing and puffing because she was at hard work in the kitchen and Mary was not. So she complains to Jesus, and Jesus says to her, Martha, Martha, you're complaining about many things. You're anxious about many things, but Mary has chosen the most important thing. You see, because the greatest enemy of best isn't bad, but good. Martha was doing good, but Mary, she chose the best. The lesson here is that we have to be careful of our priorities. We must prioritize by putting energies to the things that really matter. A strategy of the enemy is to distract us with the busy so that we lose sight of the important. Hope this was a blessing to you. I'll post chapter 11 thoughts soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.